What's up, Ghoul Gang? It's Connor, and I just want to preface this episode of Friday Fright Time that it's going to be a little bit different to what we usually do. Normally, when we do our recording sessions, we try and make them, as entertaining as we can, and then when I go and do the audio edits, I'll sweeten it and refine it down to make it as engaging and entertaining as possible, and then with the video edits, I will throw on screen the exact scenes we're talking about. I'll put some sort of visual gag up there for you to keep you guys even more entertained. But with this particular film, it's a film that we felt uncomfortable reviewing in the moment when we actually sat down to do the recording session. It is a film that we've had a few people say that we should cover on the channel, and I guess, sooner rather than later, for something like this, we, for reasons you will understand in the episode, have decided that we don't want to actively promote the film like we normally would. So this is going to be different. In terms of the audio edit, I haven't spent loads of time as I normally would editing the audio. I've just give it the minimal so that it's listenable to you, but I didn't want to put as much time and effort into this film's honest review for reasons you're about to hear in the episode. I've not even put the soundtrack underneath. We normally have a jovial, happy, fun soundtrack to go underneath the episode. I mean, I've done some edits here and there on the audio, but it's generally 95% of the original conversation me, Kofi and Stu had. This is our honest review of 2010's A Serbian Film. Here you go. Welcome one, welcome all, and welcome to an honest review of 2010's A Serbian Film. Yes, we're actually doing this. There's going to be some spoilers ahead, so you have been warned, but Kofi, you are tasked with having to explain the plot.
Lads, I'm not very comfortable here, what, how, and who, and there's every question in the world for me, Like, basically, there's a retired porn star who gets back into porn, and the crew that give him the job decide to give him a drug that makes him fuck absolutely anything and everything, all for the good of artistic porn. But the word art is very wrongly used here. How...
Yeah, just leave it there.
I know it's unlike me, but do you mind if I rant a little bit?
Really? You rant?
Normally, I would make a joke here, being like, "This one was a difficult wank, but got there in the end." But I'm not even gonna do it.
Yeah, that's definitely.
I'm not. Look, I don't actually think we should promote this film in any way, just because morally it wouldn't be right for us to do so. But we should talk about it, and I guess warn people what they can expect and why this should be avoided at all costs. So I guess instead of a spoiler alert, this for me is a don't watch this film alert. Not because it's
like literally don't watch it ever.
Yeah, not because it's a bad film. It's awful, but because psychologically this one could actually really fuck with your head and leave some deep scars that you would legitimately not be able to remove if you're that type of person. This is in no way art. It isn't even a film. It's snuff porn thinly veiled as art, isn't it? It features literally like torture, incest, rape, including the rape of a child, a grown man raping a newborn
5-second-old child.
Yeah,
we're not covering that scene. We're letting you know it's there, but we are not talking about that at length whatsoever.
A grown man raping a newborn child, like beheading, necrophilia, paedophilia, like realistic torture and extremely graphic rape scenes would have negative impact on almost all viewers, but using babies and children doesn't make it that does not make it artistic in any way, shape or form.
No.
And there's not even any social commentary here. It's supposed to be profound in some way, but ultimately it's just disgusting. And the people that actually made this, including the people that partook in this film, should be locked away for clearly being fucking wrong. All of them. Is a father raping his son next to his wife, who gets raped by his brother, art, or is it some kind of metaphor, or is focusing in on details like blood spraying on the inner thighs of a boy that's just being raped by his father? Like, is that art? Like, what is that supposed to be? Or like, is it posing a question of like, how far would you go for money? Because if so, those Facebook videos of like, would you slap your best mate for £1 million? Like, those are good enough. We don't need we don't need any of this stuff. Like,
we don't need like the idea of doing this sort of thing. Never mind the imagery.
I just don't understand like how this was ever. I know it was banned in a load of countries, quite rightly, but...
at least 46 countries.
How was this legal at any point to make this kind of thing? Because it is literally...
It was only, like, temporarily banned in some places, you know? Like, some places just were like, it's pretty bad, this, but we'll just wait a little while.
Yeah.
I genuinely can't understand how, like, if you were like an actor, and don't get me wrong, I guess from like a acting and actress point of view, like, they did a fucking great job of it because of the type of content it was. But why at any point in your acting career would you read that script and go, yeah, right, fuck it, I'm gonna go
exactly.
for that. That sounds like a great film. I'd love to be involved in that.
Yeah, it's just shameful, really.
It really is. Like, every single person involved in the film in any way is... I can't even... I don't have the words. Like, how would you...
It's a crime. It's like, to me, it's genuinely like a crime. I know, obviously, they're not... You know, a lot of it's fucking... not actually happening or whatever, but even so, like, the fact that they depicted it so graphically, like,
yes,
you've got to be a certain type of person to be able to even try and depict that kind of thing, and then you've got to be even more psychotic to try and then promote that as some kind of like artistic, thought-provoking, conversational piece. Like, I don't understand how anyone would ever get involved in this.
It was like banned in Spain for a little bit for what they called threatening sexual freedom, and it wasn't shown at all, but then eventually it was, and the director was charged with child porn, and after a while the charges were randomly dropped, and that's happened in a couple of countries.
Very sus.
that he's been charged with something, and then the charges have been dropped by a judge or just randomly. Like, I don't understand why the charges were stopped in any way. Like, it's very, very obvious that it's terrible to anyone who would see it.
It is. It's one of the most controversial films ever made, and I know that there's, you know, loads of other horror movie channels like us who get all sorts of requests to do these controversial films because they want to hear us talk about them. And, you know, I was very on the line about wanting to do this review. The only reason I've knocked it over the line in the last place is because it is...
Get them views. Controversy. YouTube views.
Okay.
Subscribe to the channel, please.
We're desperate. That's it. We are desperate for money. So we are putting out ourselves through this.
We are basically part of this film now, and we should be eradicated. In all seriousness now, obviously most of our episodes are quite jovial, and we take the piss and we have a bit of a laugh about films, you know, good or bad. But in all seriousness, like, I knew this was going to be horrendous going into it, just because I kind of knew what this film was about. But after watching it, like, the tone I genuinely feel that this episode of UTG should take is like warning people, like, this could really fuck your head up. It's like watching beheading videos on the internet, which are fucking savage enough. From my side, I don't even want to, like, talk about this film. I don't want to rate it. I don't like none of that. I just want this to be a warning of, like, don't partake in watching this film because it's fucking horrendous.
I don't think I could put it much better than that. Yes, in this film it's fictionalized, which is one of the very, very few reasons why I've actually gone and done it in the first place. But, you know, you get films like The Human Centipede, which are disgusting, like, conceptually, yes, but it's like body horror. It's not like sexual related crime, and graphically presented as well. Like, as a film, you know, if you talk about it as a film, it's you know, well put together. It's a competent film from a filmmaking point of view. But from the content matter, it's just not to be seen. It's not to be seen. And if us saying this to you is giving you intrigue to go and check it out, like, I wouldn't want you to. Like, it's, I mean, I know we did like Friday the 13th and we had a bit of a rant in that about the snake being killed. Now, that did bother me because, like, I don't think any animal should be killed on screen. And, like, there's certain films that have that I don't think we'll ever review. I'll say flat out now, I'm never reviewing Cannibal Holocaust. I know a lot of people probably think that we should do that because of how controversial it is, but it literally shows people ripping turtles' guts out, like cutting them open, ripping their innards out, live turtles being killed on screen. It's the worst film I've ever seen, and it's a disgrace to cinema. And I know we've got a running gag on the show that, like, oh, Connor likes arty-farty horror films like The Lighthouse and Mandy. Oh, yeah, that is like a different thing though. Like, this is being presented in the film as if it's got an artistic potency about it, when really it's just like, let's see how much money we can make being disgusting.
There's not even any information about like what it cost or anything, apart from the Brazilian box office. It made $1,550. That's the only info about it. Like, literally, I don't think anyone was even bothered about money. They're just bothered about how disgusting they can be, like how much they can get away with in a movie.
And that's not what film should be. It shouldn't be used for shit like that. You know what I mean?
I think the director said, like, it's a diary. This is a direct quote. This is a diary of our own molestation by the Serbian government. It's about monolithic power of leaders who hypnotize you to do things you don't want to do, and you have to feel the violence to know what it's about. I don't think people have to see or feel this kind of thing to understand that it is bad.
Yeah, and there's plenty of films that have social commentary that, like, have a poignant point, or, you know, can tell a story in a certain way that you come away and you realise what the film was about, or even you don't. You know, like we recently did, like, The Babadook, right? Which, like, you know, that to me was a very, like, poignant piece about, like, mental health, and using, like, a horror character as, like, you know, the depression and the dangers of mental health and what it can do to people and families. There's other films like Charlotte's Web, which is about the Russian Revolution, or there's films like Wonder, which is about, like, you know, a boy that looks different to everyone else but is an amazing human being, and it's about telling the tale of that. Like, there's plenty of ways to, like, tell a story or, like, have social commentary without having to involve, like, children being raped and things like that. Like, there's no need for that.
Yeah, they took the concept and took it too far.
Miles too far. And to be honest, I think, like, there's not really much more we can say about it, is there?
Nah, I'm done.
Yeah, no, I think, like, you know, normally Unleash the Ghouls, like, you know, we try and have a laugh with things, but I think the fact that the sheer fact that we, like, even watch this film and, like, you know, this episode isn't going to be a funny episode. It isn't going to be this normal, like, jovial episode that we have it. But I think that's actually in some ways probably quite valuable, because if someone does discover this review and is thinking about, should I watch this, shouldn't, hopefully this would swing them in the balance of, like, just don't. It's just not worth it. You're not gonna take anything good away from watching this film. So just don't bother.
Yeah, I mean, one last thing I'll say is, I guess one of the main things that hit me in terms of, like, uneasiness watching this is, you know, me being a relatively new uncle and, like, you guys being fathers. Like, the scenes later on in this film in particular, it just did not sit right. And, you know, back then, the time when this came out, I was like 14, 15. There were kids who were 14, 15 watching this, probably, like, not a care in the world, thinking about what effect it has on them mentally. But then once you get into a parental stage or a guardianship type stage of your life, this will just, it'll linger in the back of your mind, and it's not right, man. It's poisonous to filmmaking, and it just doesn't deserve to exist. Yeah, that's about all we can really say, I think.
You will be bothered by it if you do watch it.
Obviously not, like, the funniest episode we've ever made, but generally I think it's probably best to just put out a message to say, fuck this film, don't bother with it.
But yeah, anyway, if you hate this film, subscribe, comment and like. If you like this film and you subscribed, can you unsubscribe?
Oh my god.
True.